And for the fourth time ever, we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Reviewing Network Live. Unlike last week, it's actually a busy week in terms of stuff to talk about. I found some things that are indeed worth talking about, some stories that I found over the course of the week, and we might have a possible end to one of the two strikes that is going on right now in Hollywood. It started off on Wednesday when the studios and the writers essentially got together. They've been negotiating for several days now, and yesterday it was reported that the WGA and the AMPTP essentially may have come to an agreement on a tentative 3-year deal. However, the deal was not officially finalized. Today they said that the lawyers are looking at it to see if this is actually worthy of the demands of the WGA, but the signs are definitely encouraging that this took a couple of days, and there hasn't been a sense that something is going to go wrong here. Not to say that it won't yet, but I was hoping maybe that it would get finalized so we could talk about it on here. But if it doesn't, it doesn't really matter to me because I still have some other stories to talk about here. But if it does within the time I'm recording this, I'll definitely bring it up here. It'll be a little bit of some breaking news if that actually does happen. But keep your fingers crossed that this actually happens, because this would be a major step in the right direction, because the writers have to get the deal done, and then it's all about the actors, because you can't have the actors, because you can't make movies with just the writers and directors. You need the actors there too to have them. But we'll get to that if we eventually have to get to that point. But like I said, we have stories to talk about this week, so we will definitely get into that. But before we do, I must tell you, as always, that this is a weekly stream of consciousness conversation show where we sit back, we talk about things that happened the previous week, and this is more of a free-form conversation recording session where there is going to be it's going to be a more casual conversation. There's going to be some foul language here and there, so if you're not interested in that per se, then you might not want to listen to this. But if you're willing to go up to the challenge, then sit back, relax, and as always, let's begin the conversation. And as we always do, we'll start off with the weekend box office, the top 5 films of the week, and this is one of the worst weekends of recent memories. This is probably I think they said this is the worst weekend for the box office this year, and judging by what the number 2 and the number 1 movies are, it probably makes sense, but let's just delve into it. Let's get right to it here, because we can be real quick on this, as we've got a lot to talk about here. But let's go to number 5. And number 5, still hanging in there after entering its 10th week now. Barbie is still in the top 5. $3.2 million, dropped 16% from last week. $630.5 million after 10 weeks, still hanging around in there. Worldwide gross it's going to be close to $1.5 billion when it's all said and done. I mean, what more do you need to say? It's Barbie. We're all Barbie girls living in a Barbie world right now, apparently. So that is number 5. Let's get to number 3 and number 4, I should say. This was number 3 last week, and number 4 this week. Still hanging in there. Denzel Washington, The Equalizer 3, $4.7 million, 34% drop off from last week. The total gross is now up to $81.2 million, and if you want a comparison to the other 2 films in the Equalizer series, what are we on, week 4 for the Equalizer? Let me see here. So the first Equalizer after 4 weeks was at $89 million, and then Equalizer 2 is at $89.5 million after 4 weeks. So still down from the other 2 films, but still kind of in the same range as the other 2 movies. I don't know if it doesn't look like it's going to hit the $100 million mark domestically. It's already surpassed that worldwide. It's closing in on $150 million worldwide. It only cost like $70 million to make, if I'm not mistaken. I believe that's what it was. Let me just double check here just to be sure. Yeah, $70 million. So it's already made its money back. So it really does not matter what happens at this point on. It's still going to it still made a ton of money. It's still a hit for Sony. And it's one of the big hits of the post-strike era right now, because that's one of those ones where, you didn't really need Denzel Washington to be out there to promote the movie, because everyone knows who Denzel Washington is, everybody knows who the Equalizer is, so the results speak for themselves. Let's go to the number 3 film, the number 2 film from last week, which is A Haunting in Venice, which is at $6.3 million, dropping near 56% from last week. $25.3 million, and comparing that to the other films in the Hercule Poirot series, of course, Death on the Nile came out last year, and by the time its second weekend was on, it's about $26.4 million for that, and of course, both of these are still very down compared to Murder on the Orient Express, which started its first weekend at $30 million, so this is still very much far off, but it's not too far away from a Death on the Nile. I mean, it's closing in on that. Worldwide gross is $71.5 million so far. So I believe the budget on this wasn't too bad either. So even if it doesn't make its money back here, it'll probably do better overseas. Let me see just to make sure. Yeah, $60 million. So yeah, it's more than likely not going to make its money back here in the States, but worldwide it's doing well enough to make it past $71 million. So it should do fine in terms of worldwide grosses. So that's A Haunting in Venice. Probably should have released this closer to Halloween, honestly, if I'm being honest here. But let's get to number 2, and this is the big new release of the weekend. And for a movie that has a $100 million budget on it, this is not a good start for this movie. Expendables. Expendables for $8.3 million. For a film that cost $100 million to make. And then when you add in worldwide grosses, worldwide it's up to $19.1 million. So yeah, needless to say, nobody was freaking asking for another Expendables movie. I like the Expendables movies, especially the first 2 movies, especially the second one, but even I was looking at this and going, there's no reason to make this movie, and there's no reason for this movie to be made at this point, especially when I haven't seen the movie yet, so I can't really say for certain, but supposedly Sylvester Stallone is barely even in the movie. This is his baby. This is the thing that he was involved in, along with Jason Statham, along with Dolph Lundgren, along with Randy Couture, and all these other action stars who we don't have Arnold Schwarzenegger in here, we don't have Bruce Willis, so that's kind of a strike against the film already, but Stallone's barely in the movie from what I heard, so that was probably part of a reason why the film didn't do so well. But the simple answer to this question, I pretty much said this online before, is that nobody was really asking for another Expendables movie. It's been almost 10 years since the last Expendables film, and that film failed because A, it was PG-13, and B, the zeitgeist on the Expendables was already wearing off at that point. Nobody really wanted to see another Expendables movie after the second one. The second one was the topper, and there's nothing you could do to really top that, no matter how hard you try. Yeah, you got Mel Gibson in there, you got Ronda Rousey, you got Liam Hemsworth from the Hunger Games movies in there for some reason, and here you got Megan Fox, which I don't mind. At least Megan Fox, I've seen her in a lot of good stuff outside of the Transformers movies. I see Jennifer's Body. I actually liked her as April O'Neil in the Ninja Turtles movies. I liked her in Friends with Kids. I liked her in This Is 40. I mean, she's been in some stuff that I've actually liked. I mean, but other than that, though, there was just no reason to make this movie now in 2023. I mean, The Expendables is not Rambo. People went to go see Rambo Last Blood 4 years ago because Rambo is such an iconic character. People still want to see the Rocky Creed movies with Rocky Balboa in there because people love Rocky Balboa. Like, nobody gives a crap about the Expendables now. The Expendables has not had that lasting legacy. As much as Lionsgate wants to tell you that, it has not had that lasting legacy that the other characters that Sylvester Stallone has made famous has had. I mean, like, there was absolutely no reason to make this movie whatsoever, and the box office speaks for itself. $8.3 million, and you would think that a movie like this would at least get to number 1, but nope. Apparently, The Nun has more lasting power than I think anybody could have even imagined, because The Nun 2, for the 3rd week in a row, is the number 1 film at the box office. $69.2 million after 3 weeks. Barely beat Expendables by $100,000, $8.4 million. So you never know. Maybe this could swipe around, but I said the same thing about Haunting in Venice last week, and that did not made any difference. Yeah, apparently The Conjuring Nun has a lot of lasting power. I mean, it's a great looking image, and some of the scares in these movies, as bad as the movie is, look genuinely terrifying. So I guess people just wanted to see The Nun again. I mean, we're not really in a good time for new releases nowadays. Like, we don't have a whole lot of big new releases coming our way in these last couple of weeks, but next week it does get better, at least we would think, because we have The Creator, which is the new Gareth Edwards film with John David Washington about killer AI, which is the anvil of irony on that, because AI is the reason why the writers and the screen actors are still on strike at this point. So, but the reviews have been coming out very strongly. I mean, this is a film that could be the film that finally gets people back to the theaters. If not that, We have Saw X, which will probably still have more of a lasting audience than the Expendables do. I mean, the trailers for this feel pretty good, and even the ones for Paw Patrol: The Mighty Movie, which is the last of the 3 films coming out. I mean, that's a film that could easily do good business too, especially since we haven't had a major kids film since Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which has already crossed $116 million at this point after 8 weeks. So the family audience is open, the horror movie audience is open, and the adult movie audience is open too. So next weekend should be a vast improvement weekend on so many levels for the studios. But as far as the other new releases go, we have a new release called It Lives Inside, which brought in $2.6 million from Neon. I don't know too much about this one. An Indian American teenager struggling with her cultural identity has a falling out with her former best friend, and in the process unwillingly releases a demonic entity that grows stronger by feeding on her loneliness. So, I remember seeing the trailer for this a while ago, but I didn't think it had anything too significant to really make me want to see it. But Dumb Money went into a bigger release this weekend and actually did pretty well. $2.5 million going into almost 600 more theaters, went up 1,000%, 2.89 million. I think it opens wide next week, so we'll see how this movie does as well. So the box office after a couple weeks of very slow weekends should get back on track starting with next week. So we should see the box office getting a lot better from there. So anyway, that is the weekend box office. So with that said, let's get into some story time, kiddies. What do you say? So, needless to say, the week got off to a roaring start if you were in the Magic Kingdom on Monday, because there was a black bear that was actually spotted in a tree at the Magic Kingdom, which actually caused rides and attractions to close down. I have the story here from the New York Times, and the story starts off by talking about singing and dancing animatronics are becoming a common sight of the Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World, but a bear that was spotted there on Monday was real and most likely looking for food, prompting officials to close some rides and attractions. Which, first of all, I mean, Walt Disney World has been open for 50 years now. This really cannot be the first time that they actually had a bear sighting here, I would think. I mean, I don't know. I don't live in Orlando, so I don't really know for certain, but this could not be the first time this has happened before. But, I mean, when you have a bear around Walt Disney World looking for food, I mean, that's something that's going to take a lot of attention. Is in a certain area, but back to the story here. Biologists and law enforcement officers from the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission safely captured an adult female black bear at the theme park on Monday afternoon. Before the commission announced that the bear had been captured, Walt Disney World sent in an emailed statement that it had closed some of the theme park sections, including Frontierland, Liberty Square, and Adventureland. The company did not give a timetable when the sections would reopen. Ms. Thompson said in an email that a black bear had been spotted in a tree in the Magic Kingdom, a theme park whose world-famous attractions include Cinderella Castle and the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. In most cases, it is best for the bears to be given space and to move along on their own, says Ms. Thompson, but given the situation, staff had captured the animal and are relocating the bear out of the park to an area in and around the Ocala National Forest. And it says here that bears have been most active in the fall. They're most active in there because they're looking for food, so they can pack on fat before winter. And she went on to say that this particular bear was likely moving through the area searching for food. And, of course, Disney is known for having some great food places. So, yeah, that was probably a big surprise to them when they found this bear around. I mean, who knows? Some people actually probably thought that this is one of the country bear guys there. So it's like, hey, honey, look at that bear over there. Look at one of the country bears over there. Let's get a picture of him. Honey, do you know that that's probably a real bear there? Just do it. Just do it. And then she gets her hand chopped off or something like that. But who knows? Maybe the bear wanted to actually see the Country Bear Jamboree for once. I mean, why not? I mean, you might as well see it now because it's going to be changing pretty soon. So, going back to the story here, video footage at the local news channel WESH West took from a helicopter shows about a dozen people combing through a wooded area of the park. 5 people appear later in the video carrying a large object wrapped in a white tarp or sheep out of the park, and I guess that was the black bear. And black bears are the only species of bear in Florida. There are about 4,050 black bears in the state. They can run up to 35 miles per hour, climb 100 feet up a tree in 30 seconds. The biggest threat to bears in Florida are habitat loss and fragmentation and interactions with humans, including bears being hit by vehicles. So, like I said, this is probably something that has happened multiple times in the past, but this is just a story where it's because it's so close to the Magic Kingdom. You really should not be surprised that this actually happened. In fact, I'm seeing right now another story that happened in June where a wild bear was spotted at the resort's Fort Wilderness campaign. Of course, that kind of makes sense because Fort Wilderness is basically their camping area, so it wouldn't be that surprising to see him there. But to have a bear inside the Magic Kingdom it's kind of amusing, but at the same time, it's kind of frightening too, because like I said, you think you're going to see a costume bear character, and you instead see this real life bear just searching around looking for food, and people drop food all the time there, so it wouldn't be too hard for them to find that stuff. So I don't know. I just found it amusing, and imagine that it's like, it could be worse though. You could have something like a cocaine bear where it just goes nuts and starts going on a rampage, which would have been far more serious. But I mean, I don't know. But like, I just thought that story was kind of amusing. But they did capture the bear. They took him to Ocala National Forest, and the place opened back up not too long after that. But still, that's a very interesting way to start the week. You're going into Disney World to work there, and then you realize that you see this big black bear there, and everyone keeps telling you about how to prevent yourself from getting attacked by bears. You pretend to be dead, or you do these other things there. You just stand still. Like, I don't know for certain what to do in that type of situation, because I've never been in that type of situation before, but yeah, if a black bear were sitting right in front of me, I don't know what I probably would do. Like, if a deer were I could stand next to a deer, okay, because we have deer around my home, and even at my work, they show up in the back of the store, and as long as you don't bother them, they don't really seem like they really do anything to you. But a bear is so much different, because you can just leave it alone, and all of a sudden it'll just come out of nowhere. I mean, ask Leonardo DiCaprio on The Revenant how that worked out, But yeah, that's kind of an interesting story to start the week off. There actually is video here, and let me go ahead and take a look at it right now just to see what it looks like here. Okay, so they basically are just taking the bear to the Ocala National Forest after they had captured him. You hear the guy in the video saying, "Good bear, go, 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 go," and so there you go. It's just a 10-second video, and they're just playing it multiple times on here. I thought maybe they actually had video footage of the bear inside the park, but I don't think they did that, because you never know. Sometimes there'll be that one person who'll be brave enough to put their phone out and see if they can get a picture of the bear or what. But it is good to know that the bear is not harmed in any way, shape, or form. They did get him out of there They did get her out of there safely and brought him into the forest. So that's good to know. I'm not the type of person that likes to see animals getting injured or getting killed for stuff like that. But I'm glad that they were able to contain the problems. So the bear is actually free now in the forest of Ocala. Nobody got hurt in Disney, so all is right with the world, which is more than I can say about the other bear situation that happened this week. And by that, I mean the Chicago Bears of the National Football League. I thought I was talking about an actual bear incident, but no, the Chicago Bears had probably the worst PR week in the history of everything. I mean, if you didn't follow the story of what's going on, it's pretty lengthy, and it started off on last Sunday when they got beaten by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers after Shaq Barrett picked off Justin Fields for a quick touchdown, and that was essentially the game that Tampa Bay won that one 20-17. But then, let's flash forward to Wednesday, and it's funny because I'm actually doing this while the Chicago Bears are playing the Kansas City Chiefs right now, and they're getting destroyed by them 14-0. The Chicago Bears as a whole are not a good football team, and Justin Fields is going to be one of those quarterbacks I think is going to be wasting his talents here, and more than likely he's probably going to be somewhere else next year. But we'll push that aside for now. But let's talk about what happened on Wednesday. We'll start on Wednesday because this is when the story really started to get going. So on Wednesday, it started with Justin Fields calling out the coaches for what he said about how he's been handled there. And so this was the story I have here from ESPN. Chicago Bears quarterback Justin Fields characterized his play in a 27-17 loss to Tampa Bay. So it was 27-17, not 20-17. But in a 27-17 loss to Tampa Bay as robotic, and did not feel that he was playing like myself. Those are his quotes. The reason for what Fields believes is causing him to overthink in games, according to the 24-year-old quarterback, is what he has been coached to do. Fields went on to say, could be coaching. At the end of the day, they are doing their job when they are giving me what to look at, but at the end of the day, I can't be thinking about that when the game comes. I prepare myself throughout the week, and then when the game comes, it's time to play free at that point, thinking less and playing more, which is not the best thing to say to your team. Even if the Chicago Bears basically are screwing you over with how they're using you, you keep that stuff to yourself. Like, you don't put that out in the open and give your opponents bulletin board material like they're probably doing right now with the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, Fields went out last week against Tampa Bay, 16-29 for 211 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions, including the pick 6, and ran 4 times for 3 yards, including a 1-yard touchdown. Justin Fields is an Ohio State quarterback, and Ohio State quarterbacks are basically programmed to be pretty good mobile quarterbacks, and for a guy like him to have only 3 rushing yards and a 1-yard touchdown, that's the fewest rushing yards Fields has had since his rookie season, and the road loss extended Chicago's losing streak to 12 straight games. Think about this for a second. The Chicago Bears have not won a game since they traded for Chase Claypool back in October, back in late October, early November. They have not won one game since then. That's pretty pathetic. And the Chicago Bears are supposed to be a good football team. They've got a good defense. They've got a good new offensive weapons this year. And the fact that they are able to just be this bad is amazing. And then it also says here that Fields says he hopes to alter his approach against the Kansas City Chiefs in Week 3 so he can play more like himself. Well, considering that you're down 14-0, and I'm looking at the screen right now, and they're literally in Bears territory, the Chiefs are, that is not a good start. You're not doing a good job so far. And he says, my goal of this week is to just say F it and go out there and play football how I know to play football. And that includes thinking less and just going out there and playing off of instincts rather than so much, say, info in my head, data in my head, just literally going out there and playing football, going back to it's a game and that's it. Once again, you're not doing a good job of that so far. He eventually retracted some of his comments later on, but at the same time, though, that was nothing. It pales in comparison to what would happen the following hours after he made those statements. So let's flash forward to a couple of hours later. So I found this article on NBC Sports Chicago, which is basically a timeline of everything that happened. I mentioned the Justin Fields story about coaching overload, playing part and slow start. That happened around 10:55 local time. And then it follows with Matt Eberflus announcing Braxton Jones going on IR. A couple minutes after that, no updates on Alan Williams. And this is where, if you don't know who Alan Williams is the defensive coordinator of the Chicago Bears, or was the defensive coordinator of the Chicago Bears. And basically it says here, when asked about whether or not he anticipated Alan Williams returning at any point this season, Eberflus unsurprisingly said he didn't have an update. The Bears are tight-lipped when it comes to absences, when they might be due to personal reasons or injury. What might be a little bit surprising is that Eberflus used the same no update line when asked if A, Williams was still the defensive coordinator, and B, if Eberflus ever even spoke to Williams. And not something you expect to hear from an innocuous absence. And then not too long after that, some rumors began to spread about Halas Hall being raided, and then after that, Alan Williams' home being raided by the FBI. And so around that, then after that, Justin Fields, like I said before, he went to the locker to take back some of the comments he said about that. But then we get to 3:15 local time, and it was basically announced that the Bears had announced that Williams had resigned as defensive coordinator, and a team spokesperson said a statement from Williams, per Williams' statement, is that he was stepping away from football to focus on his health and his family. Once he addresses his health, Williams said he planned to return to coaching, but they looked into it, and there was reason to believe that Alan Williams was a problem for the Chicago Bears for a number of reasons, and more notably, there were some reports that he was resigning because of inappropriate conduct, not criminal conduct. This comes from the New York Post, not criminal activity, I should say, and this is from, like I said, this is from the New York Post, but Alan Williams' decision to resign as defensive coordinator of the Bears the past week did not stem from criminal activity, but conduct deemed inappropriate. Adam Schefter said Sunday that he was told it was not criminal activity, but it was inappropriate, and the Bears' HR department was involved in the decision for Alan Williams to step aside. It marks the latest twist in a tumultuous stretch for the franchise, which began when Williams stepped away from the team due to personal reasons, and head coach Matt Eberflus calling the defense in their Week 2 loss to the Buccaneers last week. Williams then resigned on Wednesday, and rumors started to swirl first about a potential FBI raid at Williams' home and the Bears' facility, though Williams' attorney denied both of those claims. Let's see here. Williams joined the Bears coaching staff in 2022. It's the Hallis Hall rumors about Hallis Hall being raided were completely false. Then the Athletic reported Sunday that a forensic vehicle at the Bears facility during the week, something that reportedly could be considered standard in the NFL after a resignation or a firing when the employee's electronics are downloaded out of caution. But the situation and uncertainty surrounding Williams' situation wasn't the only controversy to infiltrate the Bears headquarters this week, because not only that, they had criticized coaching from Justin Fields, and then on top of that, more than $100,000 worth of yard equipment, including lawnmowers and gators, was stolen from Soldier Field, which cited a manager at the station. So that is basically the entire week for the Chicago Bears. The defensive coordinator resigns, probably for reasons that they're not telling anybody. I mean, you don't come out and I would think for a PR move, you don't come out and tell people this straight out and then expect everybody to just believe it. But yeah, that happened. $100,000 worth of stuff got stolen, and to top it all off, the Kansas City Chiefs took the lead on the Bears again. It's 21-0 right now, with about 3 minutes to go as at the time of recording this, and it's probably going to get even worse for them. Miami just scored 70 points today on Denver. I would not be surprised if Kansas City does the exact same thing here at this point, because the Bears clearly are in a state of a disaster right now, and I don't know who you want to blame for this. You could blame Matt Eberflus, you can blame the way the coaching staff is, you can blame Justin Fields because of the way he's not playing, but the Bears right now are just in such a cluster of a situation. There are other teams right now in the league that have big problems right now. I mean, my Steelers are facing big problems right now, and video just went on when I was talking there, but like I said, my Steelers are dealing with a lot of problems right now because offense is not doing well right now. They barely got out of that game against Cleveland with a win, and then to add more salt to the wound, Matt Canada just got promoted today as a quarterbacks coach, so he's going to be the quarterback whisperer for Kenny Pickett, and I don't get why Mike Tomlin's still keeping him around. It does not make any sense whatsoever. And as bad as what's going on with the Steelers right now, as bad as what's going on with the Browns, as bad as what's going on with these 0-2 teams right now, 0-3 teams right now, the Bears had one of the worst weeks for a National Football League team you can ever have. We're talking about stuff like from the 2019 Cleveland Browns having bad PR weeks almost every single week with how overhyped that team was. But this is just pushing it to extreme levels here, and quite honestly, I don't see any way the Bears get back on track here. I wouldn't be surprised if this is one of those situations where the Bears are just going to let everything stay as it is, let the season play out, let Justin Fields continue to crash and burn, maybe trade him at the deadline and just go with a backup quarterback at that point on. They did re-sign Nate Peterman again, because Nate Peterman, former Pitt quarterback. But, yeah, I just don't see any reason to believe that the Bears are not at least going to try to tank for a big quarterback in the next draft. They could be tanking for Caleb Williams. They could be trying to bring Deion Sanders in here, Deion and his son. I mean, anything is better than the current situation going on right now for the Chicago Bears. And I mean, it's going to get worse before it gets better. I really do not see any way, shape, or form that this team is going to get any better by the time that the season gets to the halfway point. I do not see them winning any other games here, mostly because of just how they're not using Justin Fields very well. The defense isn't coming together. The offense isn't coming together. And it's just been a tumultuous week for Alan Williams and the Chicago Bears as a whole. Everything that could go wrong for this team has indeed gone wrong. And what more do you got to say, man? It's bad enough when you're getting upstaged by Taylor Swift at the Chiefs game. I swear to God, they have shown Taylor Swift every 5 minutes on the Fox broadcast here, it's supposed to be that big of a deal. Which, I'm sorry, it's just not. I don't care that she's dating Travis Kelce. All that means is that when she eventually breaks up with Travis Kelce, she's gonna have a brand new album of songs to put out. But I will save my hatred for when the Taylor Swift movie comes out, because trust me, we're gonna delve deep into that when that movie comes out, because I do not like that woman one bit, not at all. But so anyway, let's move on to the next story. So on Friday, there was a story on Deadline Hollywood, And sometimes the title of an article is more than enough to make you look at this and go, say that again slowly. Just like, let me just tell you what the title of the story is. Pauly Shore has Richard Simmons' phone number, plans to win his blessing for film portrayal. I will repeat that. Pauly Shore, who has not done anything of relevancy in the last almost 30 years, has Richard Simmons' phone number for reasons that are beyond me. Like, why would he have Richard Simmons' phone number to begin with? Plans to win his blessing for film portrayal, which I had no idea they were even thinking about making a movie off of this. And if Pauly Shore was telling these people, hey, let's make hey, I should be good enough for a Richard Simmons movie, and I'm thinking to myself, that studio probably thinking, who is this? And they just hung up the phone. Like, but let's get to the actual article that the story comes from. Pauly Shore feels it's time for a Richard Simmons biopic, and Pauly Shore goes on to say, I've noticed all the reactions to me playing Richard Simmons in a new biopic. Which, first of all, who is giving you these reactions to play Richard Simmons? Honestly, like. I'll keep going. The Encino Man actor, which that should pretty much tell you everything you need to know about Pauly Shore. If he hasn't done anything of noteworthy since Encino Man in 1992, then that's probably the first red flag right there. So he goes on to say, so I reached out to him. I hear he's living deep in Big Bear, which I actually had no idea that Richard Simmons was still alive. I thought he actually died a couple of years ago, but I guess the guy's still kicking. But we've been playing phone tag. Yes, he still has a phone, which... Okay, so what point are you trying to make here? I'm trying to make it happen for you guys. Be optimistic. Like, who was asking you to do this? Like, nobody was asking you to do this. You haven't done anything of relevancy in 30 years, and you see this as an opportunity to get your name out of public here, which it did. And he goes on to say, hit me up, Hulu. Hit me up, Amazon, Disney, HBO, all the big producers. I definitely can morph into this guy. I'll see you at the Academy Awards 2025. And at this point, at this point, you just look at this and go, Pauly Shore's out of his goddamn mind. Like, nobody has asked Pauly Shore to do anything of noteworthiness since the 1990s. What makes you think that this guy is going to convince studios that this is a good idea? But let's talk about Richard Simmons, because Richard Simmons has been mostly a recluse for a number of years. He was a major star in the 80s and 90s, hosting his own talk show, selling 1 million of his Sweat to the Oldies exercise videos, and he's been on a lot of other TV shows and talk shows, all that type of stuff. Whose Line Is It Anyway? And TMZ actually produced a documentary about what really happened to Richard Simmons, about his examination of his retreat from the public spotlight, and he shared that he's thanking fans for his kindness and love, but Shore is hoping that the Simmons biopic can return to prominence, which Richard Simmons has been out there, dude. Like, you clearly are the one that's out of prominence at this point. I do truly miss acting, and I miss being on set. Hopefully it happens. Like, the guy clearly is losing his mind here. Like, really, like, this whole thing, like, I mean, looking at him, maybe he could pull it off, but at the same time, but again, what has Pauly Shore done in the last 30 years of noteworthiness besides Encino Man, besides Son-in-Law, besides In the Army Now, besides Jury Duty, these terrible movies, with the exception of Encino Man, which is a barely passable film? The guy thinks he's Brendan Fraser, and I'm sorry, you're no Brendan Fraser, dude. Like, Brendan Fraser had to fight his way to get his Academy Award. He gave a great performance in The Whale. Like, now, this could only work. There's only one way that this movie could actually work. If they actually are really serious about this, which I sincerely doubt they are, the only way this movie I could see working is if you have the same director that did the Weird Al Yankovic movie, and you played it up for laughs. You played it up for laughs. You don't play it for straight-up seriousness. You have to play it on that same goofy level that the Weird Al Yankovic movie with Daniel Radcliffe did, because that movie was amazing. And even then, if you had Pauly Shore, if you had that director, I should say, doing this movie, it would still probably suck because it's Pauly Shore, and Pauly Shore is, like I said, like you keep saying, has not done anything of relevancy in the past 30 years. Like, but the difference, there's a lot of difference. There's a difference between, like, a Richard Simmons biopic would be a good idea, but you need to get a really good actor to play him, and Pauly Shore is not a good actor. Pauly Shore's style of humor is so not funny or anything intriguing whatsoever. And there are so many other actors that I think could play this role better. Like, the first thing I thought of when I thought of a Richard Simmons biopic, I'd say Sean Hayes from Will and Grace. Like, we saw how good he can be as Curly from the Three Stooges in the Farrelly Brothers movie, and he looked very good, and he played that part very well here. And I could definitely see Sean Hayes playing that role here very well. If I had to pick somebody else, I don't know if he's still acting right now, but from Ally McBeal, who's that guy's name? Peter McNichol. Like, Peter McNichol is somebody that I could see fitting that role pretty well. Like, he's got that charisma, he's got that style of comedy that could really fit that role very well here. I would rather see both of them before I see Pauly Shore doing a movie about Richard Simmons. I mean, trying to think of who else, just looking at him. I'm looking at his picture right now, and I'm trying to think of who might be another person that could possibly play this role well. Because Richard Simmons has got that big forehead of his, and it's going to be tough to do that, unless you have really good makeup people working on that, which, I mean, there's been a lot of good makeup work in that film over the last couple of years, so that wouldn't be really surprising if they actually got a well-known actor to play that role. I'm just trying to think of who's a good actor modern day outside of the two I mentioned that could probably fit this role well. I see a couple of actors that maybe could possibly make it work. Andrew Garfield, and Paul Mescal, who were both nominated for Oscars in the last couple of years. If you cut their hair down a bit, they could probably make it work. But I don't know. My first two choices would probably be Peter McNichol and then Sean Hayes. Like, those are the two that I think come to mind the first off. Before I'd rather see any of those people that I mentioned before Pauly Shore. I think this is just something for Pauly Shore to get his name out there, to try to have this comeback of his. But like I said, I've been saying throughout the course of this guy has done nothing of noteworthiness or anything that entertaining throughout his career. There's not been one single thing, with the exception of Encino Man, and even a Goofy movie too. But other than that, though, this guy really has not done anything of noteworthiness. And I just feel like this is something that he's just trying to do to essentially get his name back out there and get the people talking about him. You know, hey, call me up. I'm not going to be busy for anytime soon because nobody pretty much remembers who I am for the most part. But yeah, that was a story that I found just interesting just because of the title alone. Let me check and see if there's any updates on the WGA. No, nothing yet. So I don't think we're gonna get anything by the time I'm done with this. So that was something that I was hoping we get some kind of resolution towards, but doesn't look like we're gonna get that either. So let's just go ahead and jump into some recommendations. Actually, before we get into some recommendations, I might as well give you an update on what we know so far about the WGA and the studio. Now, even though we don't have an official finalization yet, this was a story that broke yesterday. The roller coaster ride of the Writers Guild and Hollywood Studios trying to seal a deal to end the writers' nearly 5-month-long strike isn't over yet. After a day many thought would see an agreement between the WGA and the AMPTP finalized, it looked like things are on pause, at least until Sunday morning, which as of right now, it'd be about about 1:45 over on the West Coast. So we're past that point now. But the WGA and the AMPTP met for bargaining on Saturday and will meet again on Sunday. The two sides said late Sunday in their second statement of the week, with claims of a best and final offer from the studios and streamers on the table, and lawyers from both sides still pouring on the fine print. The WGA strike is going to go on at least one more day. One more day that looks likely to see another so-called best and final offer, a fairly standard legal term that is nowhere as dramatic as some made it out to be today. So, still quickly burrowing under the skin of a number of scribes Saturday, the best and final offer terms was bluntly characterized as an unfortunate choice of words by one studio exec who worried it might have set the deal process back several steps. After the two sides left for the day, discussions are being held Saturday night as to whether or not there will be another face-to-face meeting Sunday between the WGA and the Negotiations Committee by the Carol Lombardini-led Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers. It's unclear if the CEO Gang of Four, Netflix's Ted Sarandos, Disney's Bob Iger, NBC Universal's Donald Langley, and Warner Brothers' David Zaslav will be in attendance at that gathering, either in person or virtually. In the fog of 4 consecutive days of intense negotiations at the Sherman Oaks headquarters, the CEO quartet had been in person Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. They were not in attendance Saturday in person, but did participate either remotely or through studio subordinates. The WGA negotiating committee, many of whom were in attendance over the past 4 days, is led by Ellen Stutzman, David Goodman, and Chris Kaiser, with an array of issues sought by the WGA, which is using a comprehensive bundle strategy in its demands this year. It appeals to final sticking points surrounding AI and staffing levels in the writers' room. Though throughout Friday and today, the search for a mechanism to untangle those issues became frenzied at points. And as both sides attempt to wrap up negotiations ahead of the Yom Kippur holiday Monday, known as the Day of Atonement in Jewish faith, Yom Kippur this year runs from sundown Sunday to sundown Monday. Thousands of members of the WGA have been on strike since May 2nd. Today is the 145th day. Well, technically this will be the 146th day since the story came out yesterday. Seeking a new 3-year film and TV contract. SAG-AFTRA, which is about 160,000 members, joined their fellow guilds on the picket lines in mid-July and has been there for 72 days. The twin strikes have effectively shut down production in the industry ever since. And this is from Deadline Hollywood. So it's basically sounding like that there's a possibility that today could be the day that the first domino would need to fall, because the actors still need to get their agreements taken care of. But if the writers get this done, it would not surprise me. We start getting some more news stories about scripts being put in progress for TV shows and movies. So it's definitely something that we'll definitely be keeping an ear on. If it happens in the next couple of days or so, it'll definitely be brought up on the next episode. So definitely something to keep in mind here. I just wanted to bring that up to show you where we're at now on that front. But so that's what's going on with the writers right now. So let's go ahead now and finally get into some recommendations for the week. Hey, this is future me from about a couple of hours after I recorded the Reviewing Network Live. Some breaking news. We were just talking about what the possibilities of a new deal for the Writers Guild is going to be like. Well, just in the last couple of minutes at around 10:11 Eastern Standard Time, The Hollywood Reporter dropped the breaking news that the Writers Guild has officially reached a tentative agreement with studios and streamers. And I've got the story here, and I'll give you kind of an idea of what this is all about. So, this is from the Hollywood Reporter. After several long consecutive days of negotiations, the Writers Guild of America and the labor group representing studios and streamers have reached a tentative deal on a new contract in a major development that could precipitate the end of a historic 146-day writers' strike. The Writers Guild of America emailed strike captains the news on Sunday night, and shortly after, its negotiating committee informed members, "We have reached a tentative agreement on the new 2023 MBA, which is to say an agreement in principle on all deal points, subject to draft final contract language." The message stated, "We can say with great pride that this deal is exceptional, with meaningful gains and protections for writers in every sector of the membership." The Hollywood Reporter has reached out to the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers for comment, and they haven't gotten it yet. But the parties came to terms on a provisional 3-year agreement, which would need to be ratified by WGA members to take effect. On Sunday, after studios responded to last-minute unions, specifics of the deal affecting around 11,500 WGA members weren't available as of press time, though they will undoubtedly emerge in the next few days as the union seeks to sell its members on the pact. During the final weekend of negotiations, lawyers huddled before the studios presented their alleged best and final offer on Saturday night. Later that same night, the AMPTP and the WGA issued a joint statement that they would be meeting again on Sunday. And indeed, despite the supported finality of the studio's previous proposal, the union returned to the bargaining counterparts on Sunday afternoon with some additional asks before the sides ultimately wrapped up the negotiations. So, essentially, a deal is in place, and they're basically going to the WGA members to see what they think of the deal, and more than likely that means this deal is going to get back on track. This deal will get through, and the first steps to ending both the WGA and the SAG-AFTRA strikes begins with getting the writers back on track. There's still a whole lot more to deal with, including getting the actors back, because you can put out as many scripts as you want to, but if you don't have any actors in there, there's no real point to doing the project. So a tentative deal does not eradicate the potential for the strike to continue, as WGA members could still reject the deal in an upcoming ratification vote. The stakes and expectations are high, given how long the work stoppage has gone on so far. However, in the coming days, the WGA leadership will undoubtedly work hard to persuade the members of the deal's merits. So like I said before, it's basically, we're kind of on the first steps to getting back on track here, because like I said, the writers, they're really close to getting back to work, and that means that the focus will now be on the actors, who are still trying to fight for the same things that the writers are. So, like I said, this is coming a couple of hours after I recorded the episode that you're listening to right now. So, like I said, the deal broke within the last couple of minutes. Supposedly, a deal is in place, and now we just have to wait a couple of days until we find out if these deals are going to go through, if this deal's going to go through or not. But it sounds like they're definitely doing that. So we'll keep you posted on that. We'll have an update on the next episode of the Reviewing Network Live. But in the meantime, let's get back to the show in progress. Now, my first recommendation is actually going to come from Hulu because a couple days ago, they put out a really good movie that you really need to check out on there called No One Will Save You. It's directed by Brian Duffield, who also did the criminally underrated Love and Monsters. And you have a story here about a woman played by Caitlin Dever from Booksmart. In this film, she's being alienated from her community and finds herself in an action-packed face-off with a host of extraterrestrial beings who threaten her future while forcing her to deal with her past. And the most interesting thing about this movie that I saw is that it only has one bit of dialogue, and I just love those type of movies where there's very little dialogue. Of course, two of my favorite movies of all time, WALL-E and Bambi, most notably known for having very little dialogue in them, and it's only 93 minutes long, so it's not a long movie per se. And honestly, this movie could have easily done well in theaters if Disney had actually put the money into this film. But man, this is a really damn good movie. I really was surprised at how much I enjoyed this film. It's a really good home invasion thriller with an extraterrestrial twist. It almost feels like it's in the same universe as something like the Paramount horror films that we've gotten recently, stuff like A Quiet Place or something like Annihilation, or yeah, those two movies. I was about to say Smile, but Smile doesn't really have too much similarities to that. But like A Quiet Place or something like a Cloverfield is what I'm thinking of. Cloverfield or Annihilation, some of those movies. But they did a really good job with this movie. I was actually really amazed at how much I enjoyed this. This is definitely going to be. I don't think it's going to be inside the best of the year list for me, but it will definitely be one of the honorable mentions. I mean, it's a film that really should be checked out. It just came out on Hulu a couple of days ago. I highly recommend checking it out. No One Will Save You. Phenomenal film. So that's the big streaming recommendation I can give you. But we have some new releases coming out this week as well in terms of physical media. None bigger than Disney and Pixar's Elemental, which is a film that started off as a box office flop, but found legs over the course of the summer and became one of the big surprise hits of the year. And critics came around to it eventually. It had a really rocky start, not just with the box office, but opening at the Cannes Film Festival and the word of mouth on that coming out not so strongly. But it did find its audience over the course of the summer. And it's one of my favorite movies of the year. It's a really great film. Great story between these different elements. The two main characters, Wade and Ember, they have this great chemistry that you just really get so invested into. It is such a really enjoyable film. I can't recommend this one enough. Definitely check this one out. It comes out on Blu-ray this week. Another animated film that we've talked about several times on this on not just this channel, but the other channel, the main channel as well. Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken comes out on Blu-ray this week, finally. And it's a film that definitely should be seen. Got horrible marketing from DreamWorks. Like, I couldn't believe how bad the marketing for DreamWorks is on this movie. And the film actually turned out to be really, really good. It's a film that really has some great animation, some great characters, fantastic voice work all around. It's definitely one of the most underrated animated films of recent memories. And it's a shame that this movie got the thrashing at the box office that it did, but DreamWorks and Universal just didn't even bother to promote the film, and it was shocking that they didn't do that. But it's coming out on Blu-ray this week. I highly recommend checking it out. If you want to wait for it to come on streaming, I think it says it comes out on Peacock on October the 10th. So either way, definitely check it out. Some other recommendations for new releases this week. Jack Ryan Season 3 comes out. Really great show that was on Amazon, on Netflix with John Krasinski. Loki, the first of the Disney Plus shows to get a physical release, is coming out this week. Loki, the first season, comes out on Steelbook 4K Steelbook this week, on Blu-ray as well. Can't recommend that one enough. Classic movies, Natural Born Killers gets a really nice looking Shout Factory release this week. The Steelbook for it looks pretty cool. I'm definitely looking forward to getting that one. One of my favorite Oliver Stone films. I'm trying to look here if there's anything else. I don't think so. So those are my main recommendations for the week. And on that note, we wrap up another week here on the Reviewing Network Live. And thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I had a good time making it. And if you want to see more videos like this, check out the playlist here. Subscribe to our channel. And also on the Reviewing Network channel, check out some little segments that I have over there from past episodes. A lot of people really liked what I had to say about how Doug, Rugrats, and Ren and Stimpy almost became Disney properties. But I had that over there. I have another video there as well. I'm going to try to put at least one of them out every single week. So there's going to be a segment from this particular episode put over there. And hopefully that brings some traction over to here. But if you want to see a specific segment from this a specific segment from the show, it'll be over on the other channel, so be on the lookout for that. That will be coming up later this week. But until then, once again, thank you for watching. As I said before, hit the like and subscribe button if you like what you saw. Check out the playlist, and I will see you guys next week for another episode. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time, and until then, we are out.